Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digital Well Publisher podcast. I am your host, Helana Black, and I am here with another inspirational spotlight interview. And my whole purpose in bringing you this series of interviews is to really highlight people whom I believe who have really just thrown caution to the wind and decided to take their story and turn it into a business as well as a book that will inspire others to go after their dreams. And so I am sure that today's interview will inspire you to be your absolute best and actually to take whatever it is that you're doing in your business and turn it into a book. And so today I am interviewing Miss Samantha Chambers, who is from Sydney, Australia. And what Samantha Chambers does is she helps people who are trapped in corporate jobs help them start a new business, as well as bring them along a new life journey that helps them to create a whole new life. She is the author of the book, Ditch the Ladder, Escape the Corporate Trap. She herself is a corporate escapee, as I like to call her. She explains in her story, you'll hear her tell it herself, but just to give you a couple of things to look for while listening to this interview today. Samantha talks about how she lost the drive to be able to climb the ladder, just going through the same daily routine, driving to work and just doing pretty much the same work day in and day out. So a couple of years ago, she decided that she wanted to leave all of that. And so she's written a book about that. She's written a whole book about that particular transition into how it is that she went from working in a corporate job into her own business. And that's really what she does in her business on a day-to-day basis. She gets to be able to support other people who want to be able to get out of this corporate rat race. And I'm just so excited to be able to bring this information to you because I'm sure that you, as well as many other people, can relate to this story, myself as well. And you'll hear me tell her in this interview that I wish I had known that these sorts of coaches were available when I decided to make the leap, because I probably would have made it to a space of success a little bit faster than what I have. She actually talks in the book, you'll hear her talk about how her first attempt at a business was actually a failure, which I think is important to share. Of course, when you decide that you want to make the transition from working in your corporate job to starting a business, it's not always going to be easy. It's not all roses and flowers and unicorns, as much as we would like it to be. But she shares that story as well as other things that you need to know about how to transition from your corporate job into doing what you love. And so I'm so excited to be able to share this interview. And so I'm going to go ahead and here's our interview today, our inspirational spotlight interview with Samantha Chambers, the author of Ditch the Ladder, Escape the Corporate Trap.
Want to know the secret to booking more speaking gigs, writing a bestseller, and filling your coaching or consulting practice with clients you love? Join best-selling author, writer, editor, and speaker Helana Black as she connects you with publishing and media experts who are ready to help you build the business of your dreams. You can find helpful show notes, publishing and book marketing resources, books, tutorials, and more at digitalwellpublisher.com.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Well Publisher podcast, where we interview entrepreneurs and business experts to find out all the tools and strategies that they're using to grow their expert business. I am your host, Helana Black, and I am here today with another business expert. She's from Sydney, Australia. Her name is Samantha Chambers, and she's recently released her own book that sort of chronicles her business journey and how she's been able to go from working in a corporate environment to supporting other people with creating businesses that they love. So, Samantha, how are you?
I'm good today, Helena.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Digital Well Publisher podcast. Can you go ahead
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, wonderful. Can you give us a little bit of a background on who you are and basically what type of a business you have?
Yeah, so I I have a business at the moment where I help people who feel as though they're trapped in their corporate jobs
Mm-hmm.
and want to move to starting up their own business and also not just improve things business and career wise, but also in terms of their life and their life journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the business that I do that through is called Ditch the Ladder.
Okay.
And it comes from, a bit of my own story and journey and background. I started in the corporate world quite a long time ago, so pretty much straight from school.
Mm-hmm.
I was given the opportunity to work with PricewaterhouseCoopers as part of their cadetship program.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time thought, yes, well, that's what I wanted to do. It was, giving me an element of security in terms of my future, that I would climb the corporate ladder and have this amazing career working for large corporations, and having PricewaterhouseCoopers give me that opportunity early on was great.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly gave me a lot of foundations in business, in particular in the accounting sphere as well. And had a great time and worked for some awesome people, and of course did climb the infamous ladder. And then I moved into some commercial roles, and one of the last roles I had when I was in corporate was at Qantas Airways.
Mm-hmm.
And while I did some finance roles, but I also had the opportunity to move into other roles where I was, running projects, continuous improvement and change programs, and helping people through change and engaging staff when there were large change programs going on. Again, also great experience and working with some great people. So I found, and it's something that had happened over the course of a couple of years, where this drive to climb the ladder just wasn't as strong as what it used to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
The day-to-day, getting in the car and driving to work,
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't feel the same, didn't feel right. I didn't have that motivation and determination that I'd always had and always carried through from early on in my career. And I didn't really quite understand, why it was happening or why I was feeling that way. And I did a few things to see if I could rectify the situation. So I, changed roles. I worked with different people doing different projects and working on different challenges, but nothing really sort of resolved, this feeling or this problem that I was having of really not wanting, to go to work every day.
Yeah.
So I realized that to really sort of deal with this, this loss of drive and determination, I had to come up with something that was going to be a big change or a major change required. I didn't really know quite what it was, but I knew that something big needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was given a sign through a voluntary redundancy in the role that I was in at Qantas, and I saw that as the opportunity to consider that, well, this is potentially the big change that I was needing, not knowing exactly what it was, but needing.
Mm-hmm.
So really jumped on that opportunity to say, well, maybe this is my chance to leave the corporate world altogether and try something different using the skill sets and the experience that I had developed. Try something different that was, in my own space, on my own terms, and essentially being my own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going against, the comfort zone of what I was used to and comfortable with being in the corporate world, where I had established myself and had established my brand and people knew who I was and what I stood for. And now entering a whole new world that I had not much experience in,
Mm-hmm.
but was welcoming the challenge, but not quite sure of what was to come. And that was 2 years ago that I did actually leave the corporate world, and it's certainly been a bit of a journey since.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Now, did you know people? Did you know people who had done something similar, or was this, just sort of, were you like the only person that you know, or like was your whole network looking at you like you were crazy?
yeah, I mean, there are a few people that I did come across who had done something similar. But yeah, I did get quite a few people think that I was pretty crazy. To give up something where it is seen as being, a job in a corporate environment is seen as being stable and secure,
Right.
even though we know these days it's not really. A lot of change and innovation going on in all industries means that things get moved and shuffled around in corporations and people get moved around, and there isn't really any such thing as having a stable job anymore, but it still has that impression that, that's stable, but going out and starting your own business isn't stable. Yes, so there's an element of being a little bit crazy doing something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so you said 2 years ago was when you decided to go ahead and make the leap. And so can you describe a little bit about what taking that leap looked like for you?
Excuse me. Yeah, it was one of those things where I saw it as being exciting and fun, in one aspect, but also knowing that it would be quite challenging. And it didn't really take long to really encounter what I call the roller coaster ride of the journey and the emotions that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think even for me, and ironically, I did help people in the corporate environment, move through change when there were large change programs happening. But it's one of those things whether, you have self inflicted change, I guess, or you have change imposed on you.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's something that is confronting and something that does impact you emotionally. So, with the roller coaster ride, there's the peaks and the troughs, and the peaks are, when you have those great wins and things are going well and you're feeling really successful and achieving a lot. And then you have the troughs where things don't go to plan, or you feel overwhelmed or a sense of, oh gosh, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
So certainly that change process really did hit early on, and it does tend to continue, but it's finding ways to, I guess, smooth out the roller coaster ride. And once you establish yourself and start to know what you're doing and what the journey involves, you can start to reduce the extremities of those peaks and troughs.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of people does your business really focus on?
Yeah, so it's looking at people in basically in a similar position to what I was in. So corporate professionals who feel as though they have established themselves, career-wise in a corporate role, but see that it's not something that they necessarily want to do till retirement. And it's a lot of people that my current clients or people I talk to are people who, I guess it's a certain time in your life, and it might depend on how old the kids are, or whether even kids are in the picture or not, but people get to a certain point where they look back and consider what they have achieved and have done, but look ahead and think, well, is it time for a change now? Is it time for something different?
Mm-hmm.
And is it time to do something that really takes into consideration lifestyle as well, and thinking about the future and planning for the future, and setting themselves up financially, as well as having a comfortable lifestyle as well. And
Right.
I think we all sort of know people who, and I've been there, done that, and I know people who are still doing it now, and you work those really, really long hours in the corporate world, and there's an element of a little bit of dissatisfaction when you know that you're not necessarily doing it for yourself. It's, for the boss or for the company. And the beauty of, entrepreneurship and business ownership is that, you can be doing it for yourself. And whilst there might be some long hours, but ultimately you can work out in your business that the hours that you do want to work, and knowing that the hours that you do put in, it's boosting yourself and your own business and your own purpose for why you're in business.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so now you've just released a book. It's called Ditch the Ladder, Escape the Corporate Trap. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Now, how did you come upon deciding to write a book in the first place?
Yeah, so probably just continuing on from, the story of my background and when I did initially move into this space of entrepreneurship and business ownership, which was quite unknown. I did go into business with a business partner, and we had a great idea. We had different skill sets and experience that we were bringing to the business. And after about 6 months, it didn't work out. And it really made me reflect on, why it didn't work out, given there were so many things that where it seemed, it was going to be going quite well, or it should have gone quite well. But then also thinking of from the perspective of, for me personally, I had never really failed at anything major.
Yeah.
I'd spent, particularly within the corporate world, spent my time making sure I didn't fail at things and making sure I was doing all the right things and getting things done properly so that I could, ultimately then climb the ladder. So this whole, risk-taking attitude never came to the fore because, not wanting to fail.
Right.
So when the business partnership didn't turn out, initially I did see it as a failure, but having spoken to other people in the space and other entrepreneurs who had gone through things of experiencing those highs and lows and understanding, what's really required to bounce back. I went through a period of reflection to say, well, yeah, there was things that didn't work, but there were things that did work. So what can I learn from this going forward? And rather than sort of take it as a indication to then go back and get a job, I thought, well, no, I can move forward with this myself. And as I started to develop the business in my own space under my own hat without the business partner, I realized there were just so many lessons that I had learned, and I started to write those down because I do like writing a lot. It's I find it as just an effective way to get thoughts out of my head and to express things to other people. And so I do enjoy, constructing words and writing. And so I started to note down, lessons learned. Started to really think about the whole journey I'd been on, and if I was to talk to myself or tell myself a story, a couple of years ago when I did leave corporate, what advice would I have given? And at that point I did have, friends and colleagues ask me about the journey I'd been on, and I found I'd been sort of giving out similar types of advice. And also just given, setting an expectation to other people as well that, setting up a business isn't just, you just go set up a company and you create a fancy website and that means you're in business. That
Right.
There's a lot more, and a lot of people do. And I see, and I talk to clients and I talk to other people at events, and they get all excited when they get their website and their business cards and their logos done. It's like, well, you've done the easy stuff. That's great. That's the fun stuff. Now that, you've got to get the hard stuff done, to actually get the business going. And a lot of people sometimes they seem a bit oblivious to that bit because they get caught up in the excitement. So thinking about all those things, my journey and what I could teach other people or help other people in a similar situation, by the time I'd sort of written a few things down, I thought I've got a lot of content here that's probably, can fit into a book, and can be used for others to be able to read it and get an idea of, okay, well, based on my journey, the lessons learnt, expectations of what's required to set up a business, and even understanding too that setting up a business is as much a life change as it is a change in your career. I pulled it together in a short space of time, and I hope that I can help others thinking of going on a similar journey. So that's the story behind the book. And of course there was a bit of, not only was it just my story and my journey, I did have contributions from other entrepreneurs. I did do a lot of research, particularly in Australia. There's some frightening statistics about small business, so it's again, it's providing those insights and that information to people so they can get an idea of what the journey ahead might involve.
Yeah. And what I really love about your book is that, in general, there's so much information about how to start a business and what it's like to have a business from the perspective of a man, and to be able to have a different perspective from a woman. I think when it comes from women, it's delivered in a little bit of a different way. And so other women are a lot, other women who may have had similar experiences like yourself, like, that feeling of being afraid that you're going to fail. And then you have your first partnership in your business didn't really work out. And, that was really the first time in business that you really felt like you failed. I think that's something that a lot of women can relate to. So, that's really one of the great reasons for people to go out and take their expertise and put that into a book, because those types of stories are really the things that draw people to you and to your business.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you go about writing your book? You started to talk about how you've gotten some contributions from other entrepreneurs. But what are some other things that you've done to be able to complete the actual writing process?
Yeah, so the contributions help. So doing a lot of interviews and conversations with other entrepreneurs and people that I knew within my network. As I said, the research was also a big component to really hone in on the things that someone starting up does really need to know. So one interesting statistic I found, and this is within Australia, that just over 50% of small businesses don't make it to their 4th birthday. So highlighting things like that so that it is giving a bit of a reality check as to what you getting yourself into. But then also obviously understanding from that perspective that sounds like it's, it can be quite scary. But on the other end of the spectrum, it was collating information and insights about that the journey can be very rewarding as well. So one of the key things that I always had in mind as I was writing it and pulling information together was just that whole concept of you don't know what you don't know. And if I'm providing information that can help someone move more quickly, whether it's making the decision to make the move or in terms of what they need to do to get going, that really drove a lot of the content of the book. There was certainly a lot of weekends and late nights of writing. So I found probably one of the key things to do initially was really, once I defined who I was writing it for, and I was writing it to myself, but I did also have a particular friend of mine, also similar situation, who was also going on a similar journey, thinking that I was writing it to her and writing it to some of my ex-colleagues. But beyond that, I did spend a lot of time on the structure of the chapters and what what would be my key ideas and what would be the key themes that would be running through. And once I had the structure sorted, then it was so much easier then to then actually just pull the paragraphs and the sentences and the ideas together.
Mm-hmm.
And just making sure that I did have, statistics and stories and examples of things for each of the chapters so that it made it relevant to the reader, so that I could identify whether it was a particular story from my perspective or a client story, and pulling that together to make it more structured.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's some of the late nights and the weekends where it might have been just really spending chunks of time doing a lot of writing and getting it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So a bit of time involved, but once I'd sort of set the deadline and I knew which date I was heading towards, then it became a lot easier just to then head towards that deadline.
Yeah. And so now, the book it's finally been released, and
yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And so it's great. I love it when people who are authors actually talk about they had to actually sit down and spend late nights or early mornings and weekends actually writing the book, because so many people get so caught up in the whole romanticism of, I'm going to write this book, and they have all these wonderful ideas, but they never actually get down to the work. And it's something that you actually have to train yourself to do. You've got to force yourself to sit down and write. Otherwise, the book never happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I've certainly met, it's funny you mention it, because I certainly have met a few people, in the last few months who have said, yeah, it's great that you've written a book. Yeah, I've got one half written, or I started writing one 5 years ago and still haven't finished it yet. And it's the same old story. And if number of times that someone's mentioned that to me, that yes, we've all got books in us. We've all got stories and we can all tell stories, but you're right. It's the discipline, and being, and every day consistently doing something that's contributing to getting the book done. Yeah, otherwise it still will just sit there as a half-written script.
Yeah. And about roughly how long did it take you to complete it?
I had this thought, it was probably about this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially over the first few months, I had just been doing that exercise of collating some of the ideas and like, as I said, working out what the structure would be and how I'd go about doing it and working out the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few sort of bumps on the road in terms of both things personally and business-wise that did slow me down. So I didn't really sort of get to it, like working on it, more solidly till about August, September last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I handed it to the publisher end of November. So those last few months in the lead up were spending a lot more time from week to week. Though before that I had been just contributing things regularly when I thought of a new idea, or if I'd spoken to someone or I approached someone and said, can you help contribute to the book? Those things were still ongoing probably from about this time last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So once you finally decided to make the space to do it, then, it didn't really take you a whole lot of time. Once you were able to pull everything together, it was just a matter of 3 months or so?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So once, I really had locked in the date with the publisher,
mm-hmm.
It then was, like I said, it was so much easier to then just go, okay, well, what do I need to do each week, each day to meet the deadline?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, I can't believe we're almost at the 30-minute mark. But
Wow.
It went by so quickly. Was there something else that you wanted to tell us about the book, or how people can contact you if they're interested in getting the book or working with you at all?
Yeah. Well, I do have two websites.
Mm-hmm.
So there's www.ditchtheladder.com and also my personal website, which is www.samanthachambers.com.
Mm-hmm.
So both sites have uh, information about me and what I do, and also there are options in there to purchase the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, yeah, I could still talk for a lot longer about insights from the book and from my experience. There's probably a couple of things that I could probably just share just to wrap up. And
Yeah, go ahead,
one of the,
please. Mm-hmm.
yeah, one of the key things that I found, since being on the journey was, really surrounding yourself with a good team of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know this whole concept of becoming an entrepreneur or being a business owner, it's working for yourself and being your own boss, but it's quite a misconception that, you know, it's hard to survive and to thrive in your business if you're just trying to do everything yourself.
Right.
And so one of the things I really found was having coaches and mentors and people there to give some what I call tough love. If I've I want to do something, but I needed the feedback from someone to give me an indication if I was on the right track.
Right.
Having people around me who were good at motivating me or just giving me the reassurance in those times when I was in the dips on the roller coaster ride.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, just generally sort of getting clarity or expertise from people who've been there, done that. I found that really, really helpful. And I do say it to a lot of people because I think a lot of people think that they need to do the whole journey on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so worthwhile having people who are there, who can support you and understand the journey that you're on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was a key learning for me, and it's a key thing that I do share with other people. And I guess the other key thing is really, you know, taking action now. I do get a lot of responses from potential clients and people I speak to that, well, it's something I want to do one day. I'm just not ready to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand, and everyone's has different things going on in their life where it might not be good timing. But it's one of those things, if you keep putting it off, it'll never happen because, you know, you still feel comfortable in the world that you're in a job, which has that certainty.
Right.
To do something like stepping out of the comfort zone, you know, it is going to involve a lot of change and a lot of courage and a lot of strong will and knowing that the ride's going to be a bit bumpy, but knowing also that it's going to be and can be extremely rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I encourage people to think, you know, think now, not later. Instead of having the attitude of, oh yes, I'll do it one day, you know, think about, you know, I'll start today.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll
Right.
start as soon as I can, because, you know, there's never a right time for anything. If we're going through a big change, we can always find an excuse not to do something or a reason why we can't. But if we're more thinking about the reasons why we can do something, you know, then it's a much more positive driven attitude. And that's certainly the attitude that's required for an entrepreneur or a business owner.
Yeah, and to really just to be able to start off where you are. You know, you don't have to quit your corporate job today. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
you can,
Yeah.
you can just sort of plan it out. Is that really
Yeah.
what it is that you suggest that that's part of what you do to help people through that whole transitional process, right?
Yeah. And that is definitely part of it, that, you can, if you put time into the planning,
Mm-hmm.
and getting your foundations together first of exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, and what you want your future to be. Yes, you can still be doing that whilst you're in your job, so that when you do make the transition, it's a quicker transition,
Mm-hmm.
and it happens a bit more smoothly. but I know different clients that I have and people I speak to, everyone's different. Some people are willing they're more the risk takers, and they will just say, okay, yep, I'm ready to leave today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do have, yes, others at the other extreme that are, well, I've planned this date in November. So, you know, what do I need to do between now and then to get to there? And that's fine, because we're all different. But certainly tapping into those people who are saying, yes, I've got this date in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
what do I need to do to set myself up for them? That's definitely
Mm-hmm.
the that I like to help.
Yeah, that's why it's so critical for people to have support on trying to think through that whole process, because, you know, I did a lot of what I've done, you know, on my own, and I kind of regret it because it's taken me a little
Yeah.
bit longer to get settled. You know, so working with someone like you is really, really key to really, you want to be able to jump out there on your own and really be able to step out on your best foot, so to speak.
Yes.
You know, so that, you know, you can sort of skip over all the mistakes that many of us make when we're doing it on our own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, Samantha, thank you so much. This has really been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great talking to you and talking about the book. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Where can people order the book via your website?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yes, via both websites. There's a separate page.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And that's at ditchtheladder.com and also at samanthachambers.com. And there you have another wonderful interview on the Digital Well Publisher podcast. Today's guest was Samantha Chambers. If you'd like to find out more information about her and get all of today's show notes, you can go to digitalwellpublisher.com, keyword Samantha Chambers, and you'll be able to find the link to her website as well as to get her book. Also, I want to invite you to join my 7-day best-selling author platform challenge. If you want to know what's an author platform and why you need one, what's the #1 tool that will help you to sell more books anytime you want, as well as learn how to be able to get more readers to buy your products as well as your services, then you definitely want to join this challenge. You can find at the top of the website there where you can put in your first name as well as your email address, and you'll have direct access to this free resource. You'll also get updates on whenever I upload a new podcast episode, as well as other events, courses, new books that I release, and other really great information that's going to be able to help you to be able to grow your business with a book. So that's at digitalwellpublisher.com. And until next time, have a great day.